And a very good evening wherever you're tuning in from. It's the first time we're using that, so excuse the glitch. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings unto all of you. Welcome to the show. It's called Stay Kind. My name is Azif Mustafa. This is your weekly live show, weekly feel-good show. We're talking about kindness. We're talking about all sorts of good stuff. And tonight I have two co-hosts with me. Without further ado, I shall bring them on board. First of all, we have Fedora. How are you, Fedora?
Good. Assalamualaikum. Very good evening to everyone.
Hey, and not forgetting Rahim Osman. How are you?
Hi. Good night. Good evening. Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam. So, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're tuning in from, I see a lot of people already on board. Please tell me where you're coming from. It's always a great joy for us to find out where everyone is from. And tonight, as I was saying, we have a fantastic guest with us, Shawn Watkins, all the way from the US of A. It's early morning over there, so we're very fortunate to have him with us. I don't know, are you excited, Fedora?
Oh, yes. I mean, a topic that is, I call it elusive. So I would love to hear from the man himself. So yeah, right. I'm excited.
You've not met him, have you, Rahim?
No, never. I actually only just half an hour or 1 hour ago, I just went through some of his videos. Quite interesting to know how to apply this vulnerability to business. Yeah?
Exactly.
Can't wait.
There's lots of people. So we have Shukri from Kampung Pandan. We have all sorts of people on board already. And so again, if you're just tuning in from everywhere in the world, please let us know where you're coming from. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give you Shawn Watkins. How are you, Carl?
Hey, everybody, doing great this morning. It is lovely and 9 a.m. here in the U.S. on the eastern border, New Jersey, in between Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and New York City. Got both of them on either one of my sides, Philly on the left, New York on the right. But it is good to be here with you guys this evening. Hello to everyone in Malaysia and everyone that is watching across the globe. We are talking about something very good today, and I'm excited for the discussion.
That's right. So, Shawn Watkins, and you've launched Shawn Watkins Consulting. Maybe you'd like to introduce to our viewers what it is you do and who you are. Let's start with that.
Yes. Well, I am Shawn Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Shawn Watkins Consultants, a firm that I started. It's a coaching and consulting firm that I started during the pandemic. And I am also a law student, getting ready, studying for civil rights law, and looking forward to that career path as well. But all the time, I've always been one that worked in diversity, inclusion, equality, in those kind of realms. So civil rights was not just something that I picked up as a hobby. It was sort of like a life's journey for me. And vulnerability was the driver. It was the engine to that journey. And since then, I have seen that when I first started talking about vulnerability on this platform, maybe about 2 years ago now, I did not see it talked about anywhere. I had quite a few people DM me and was like, man, what are you talking about? Why are you bringing that on here? This is a work platform. Oh man, I put up with a lot for over 2 years, but I stay consistent to the story because this is who I am. This is how I live. This is how I walk and talk. So eventually people got to see that this was an authentic me. It wasn't someone just saying, okay, I'm going to get in this niche because no one else is there, and I think that it's an opportunity. No, the opportunity came with the life that I lived, so therefore I embraced the vulnerability, and it has just been a tremendous journey now to see the course of the pandemic and how people are dealing with it, and embracing their own vulnerabilities, being able to talk about traumas, tragedies, those kind of things, expressing them own selves, even in the work field and the workforce. We're working toward that, ASAP, and it's a work in progress. We got a lot of work to do, and I'm honored to be part of one of those ones that are pushing that boulder forward.
Right, and I can attest to that. Carl was one of my first friends after I joined Growth Academy. I didn't know anyone then. He was one of the first to reach out and help me out because I really didn't know what I was doing. He was one of the first guests to my previous show, Culturism. So we've come a long way, and I've seen you grow, brother, and I'm really proud of where you've come. It's amazing, and I'd like to pass on to my co-host. Let's start with you, Fedora. I understand you've prepared some questions for Carl.
Oh, yes. Hi, good morning, Carl, and thank you for being here. And we just
It's my
recently
pleasure.
got connected. And yeah, it's indeed, I must say, a privilege to have you with us because we will be having a conversation on the topic which I would call elusive or very sticky, which is
Yeah.
vulnerability. Like you rightly put so earlier in your introduction. Because on a personal note, vulnerability is a topic that I only recently am comfortable with showing it, showing vulnerability. So my question to you, being the advocate of vulnerability, so typically we are comfortable to be vulnerable with our families, for example, which leads, so with our families, right?
Right.
And perception, judgment, i.e., being judged. These two play a big part in influencing the people outside our inner circle, right, outside the family and beyond. So vulnerability here is in context of past experiences, for example, which might not go down well with a certain culture, and not on weaknesses per se. So where do you start, right? And how can you be comfortable with being or showing vulnerability when you have all this at the back of your mind? And a follow-up question to that is basically, how far could or should you go in showing your vulnerability? So pretty much, inter-
Uh,
yes, that's my
oh,
question. Thank you.
those are great questions, and I'll start with the latter first to give contents of the first question you asked me. How far you should go? When we look at the dictionary version of what vulnerability means and what it stands for, what Merriam-Webster has defined it as, what Oxford Dictionary and the various dictionaries that we use across all languages, they highlight the point that it is an exposure to fear, an exposure to hurt and harm. I take that as a different, and I changed that narrative, not from the premise of I've read some of Brene Brown's readings, I've saw some of her research, I've attended a few of her TEDx events, watching them live stream, and I heard a perspective from someone that studied vulnerability, from someone that may have had some instances in their life, but they really researched others' vulnerability. What I do and how I teach to embrace vulnerability, I teach it from a lived perspective because vulnerability is individual. So I can't study thousands of people and come up with a vulnerability solution for Fedora. I can't do that. So what I have to do is I have to strategically see what fear, because it's the doorway to vulnerability. The fear of being judged, the fear of people telling us about ourselves, people describing things that we don't like about ourselves. So the empowerment comes within, because if we don't open the door to that fear, then we're already embracing our vulnerability. So we all have flaws. We all have things that are not the greatest, or so we seem. But the beauty of humanity is your flaw is beauty to someone else. And though we don't see that on the inside of ourselves, someone spots that. And that's the key to vulnerability. We are senders and receivers. So when I send a signal out that say, I'm uncomfortable in this, humanity and the individual I'm dealing with, they should be the receiver of, I'm going to make this comfortable for them. And we've gotten away from that as a people, as society, globally. We've gotten away from touch, humanity, and understanding that we were put here for each other. And we've isolated ourselves in these walls that we built up that, I call it skeletons in your closet. Like if you got a skeleton in your closet, how powerful is that if it's already out? How empowered are you if everybody knows? Whether it's good or bad, you get a power of knowing that there's nothing hidden. And this is where we delve into the vulnerability. It's very easy to digest it as hurt and digest it because a lot of people say, well, Carl, how do you get people to embrace it? How do you get people to get away from the judgment? I take away the fear. I take away those things. And the fear is just the unknown. So once it's known, how can you be afraid of it? Once you understand it, how can you live in fear of it? And this is some of the things that I delve into and I talk to my clients concerning.
Oh, nice. Nicely put. Yes. I mean, like you mentioned, it's about taking away that fear. That's basically it. And having that power within you. I mean, by being vulnerable and being out there. Thank you, Carl.
My pleasure. It gives you the power. If we can learn to eliminate judgment, and this is where it all stems from, because we can't get rid of vulnerability. All of us have it. We're all vulnerable, and vulnerable just means that we're unsure, we're uncertain, we're not clear about, we don't have, a great understanding of. And a lot of times that make us feel less than because maybe I can't answer the question that you asked. Maybe I'm fearful of speaking in front of others as we're doing now. Maybe all of those things are in the essence of judgment. They're not what you may not be able to do or not do. You're stuck in what someone thinks you can do or not do. And that is the doorway which vulnerability puts you past. Because once you understand that it's just me, what gives me, I think I wrote a post maybe a couple of weeks ago. I say the only person standing in the way of you is you, regardless of what someone else knows, regardless of what someone else does. Your capacity to do things are within your capacity to do things, and it's the determination of which you take to do those. And that's what I tend to do when I embrace vulnerability.
That is super powerful. Let's go to Rahim Osman.
Hi, Carl.
Hi, Rahim.
Nice meeting you. Yeah, nice meeting you tonight.
You as well.
Yeah, I just want to take a cue from Fedora. Especially now when how you want to actually publish articles or news, or you want to talk about yourself, how you want to promote yourself, especially in the social media, right? I think you hit a right button, spot on, by actually showing the true color of yourself rather than you hide those vulnerability, because the previous method, of course, even I'm included. I mean, we are so shy, or we are so afraid of showing our weaknesses because you're afraid that people will run away from you. I think this is the typical kind of situation we were facing previously. But through the social media, in fact, I did also some study, on my own. Actually, the best thing is to be honest. And to be honest, of course, you have to show your true color. So this is where, again, your topic, right, vulnerability, I think, which is very relevant. And my next question to this is actually to what degree you want to expose yourself to the public, to the people surrounding you.
See, that's the key to it, and that's the misconception, and that is what I've worked so hard for over the years of trying to change the narrative of. I want to change everyone's, or not everyone's, or those who come in contact with me. I want to change their understanding of what vulnerability is, and that is the key to it. Because like I led off with, the understanding that we have is harm, hurt, fears, those kind of things. So everyone denotes that that's what vulnerability is, and that's not the key. That's not the key definition of vulnerability for each and every individual. There are things that the most vulnerable people that I've ever worked with, ever led, ever felt, ever been with, ever experienced things with, I didn't know a lot about them as far as their personal things. Vulnerability is not the idea of I'm going to cast everything that's wrong with me onto you. It's not your burden, and you're not responsible for carrying that. What vulnerability is that there are ways and flaws and things in me that I'm uncertain about moving around in. And in that, I need help from other individuals, which is humanity, which is why we are here. We're really here to uplift and build up each other. That's really the concept of what humans are here for. and also serve our maker. So when we look at that and we say, how can I be better to enhance the life of Fedora, though Fedora is miles away from me? How can I put out something as being a true person of my own self that will inspire Raheem or him to understand that, okay, this is what we're dealing with. It's not about dropping baggage. It's not about dropping your luggage. And that's what the misunderstanding and the misconception is of vulnerability. People think it's an avenue. Oh, I got to tell all my business to be vulnerable. No, you don't. The most advantageous and vulnerable leaders that I've ever served with, worked with, or been a part of their teams, I didn't know much about them on a personal level. I didn't know a lot about their secrets. I didn't know a lot. It's the way that they empowered me by treating me, giving me a safe space to say things, giving me a comfortable environment to be who I was, giving me an opportunity to be innovative and bring things to the team, being heard. A lot of times people, you can change their concept of things if you listen. And listen, an active listener changes a whole lot of dynamics. And these are just the simple things that we've gotten away from as a society. It's not nothing new what I'm saying. Everything I'm saying is refreshing the things that mom and dad taught you. Listen, be kind, be respectful, have manners. You know what I'm saying? Those are the principles of life. And we've gotten away from those. And that's what is making people standoffish, not engage, because they're fearful of the retaliation of their feelings. And if we get back to those playground moments when we were little kids and we helped each other off the slide, or someone fell and you wiped off their boo-boo, if we get back to that mentality, we'll be a better place. And that's vulnerable.
Wow. That's
a big one. Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Great question, Rahim. So, Carl, I remember you were telling me you had served in the army.
Yes.
How did that experience shape you, and what was vulnerable about your experience then?
I think the key to my vulnerable, and I've shared this story a couple of times, and I'll tell you guys and my listeners too. I never tell this story from a sense of I need anybody to be sympathetic to me, my cause, or what I do. But I tell this story to encourage others that are going through what I went through to understand that there is not only a light at the end of the tunnel, but once you embrace the things that have hurt you, you're no longer captive to those things. And once you do that, there's a release where you can empower others to get over what they're going through. When I was in the military, I joined the army and I served 6 years. I went to the military. Not that I wasn't smart enough to go to college, not that I didn't want to go to college, but I was running away. As a youth, I was abused, and that abuse turned to addiction, which turned to alcoholic. I was an alcoholic at a very young age. I was drinking very young to mask the pain of the abuse. And through that alcoholism, it just turned my life into a depression. I graduated from school. I skipped 2 grades, so I was very smart. I graduated from high school 16, and I turned 17 because my birthday's in August. And my mom gave me 3 opportunities. She said, well, you can work, you can go to school, you can join the military. Everybody I knew was working at factories and such. I'm from Chicago, so that's what we had. I didn't want that for my life. I wasn't ready to go to college because mentally I knew it took more than what I had. And that was not the education and the knowledge or the ability to adapt. It was the stress of hiding behind what had happened to me as a trauma as a kid, and how I dealt with it. Instead of talking to people, I turned to the bottle. And I knew my bouts of depression would not allow me to be the best I could be in college. So what did I do? I said, oh, well, I could go to the military. I think that would change a few things in my life. It would get me out of where I'm at. It would provide me a space where no one knew me. I could kind of start over. And it could also be a form of income, a source for me to learn and take care of myself. So it answers 3 of my top questions. But I went there broken. I went there hurting. And I understood that I just took me, the same me, to another location. I didn't change me. I took the same me. So therein lies when we all want to change jobs, or we all want to switch partners, or we all want to get out of the things we're in. We have to look inside and take the inventory and say, am I changing me? So when I go to the next location, there's a better me, not running from the last me, because I haven't transformed me to take me to someplace better. And the military did that. I'll tell you this in brief. I was sitting on the tank, and I was a tank commander in the military. We was on trainings out in Wildfleck in Germany, and it was freezing cold, and we slept on the tanks in our sleeping bags. And 45 was our sidearm that we trained with when we wasn't in a tank. And I set out on a moonshine day, and the only thing different about this night, I mean, was that the moonshine is so bright that it felt like daytime out there. That's how bright the moon shine. And I sit upon this tank and with my gun, and I said, I'm hurting so bad. I can't tell anybody what's going on. It would probably be better if I wasn't here. I got so depressed and so heavy with what I was carrying that I thought it would be better. And this is how I understand how people think about suicide, because even the most intelligent person can get to that point. And I sat there and I took the bottom clip out of my gun and I chambered a bullet in the round. And I said, yeah, it'll probably be better this way. We out here in training. I had mapped it all out. We out here in training. If something happens, my parents, they'll get the money for, military death. I mean, I had thought about all of this. And I sat on that tank and I said, okay, I pulled the trigger. It didn't go off. I pulled the trigger, the gun snapped. I pulled the trigger a third time. And at that point, I got infuriated because I couldn't even kill myself right. This is the depression talking. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm out here with the means to do it, and I can't even do it. And I said, forget it. So I got angry. I put the clip back in, and I chambered, and I looked and around. The bullet sat in the chamber. The gun didn't jam. The bullet never left. At that point in time, I knew God had a purpose for me. No, I didn't get this big epiphany. I didn't get the clouds opening up. I didn't get the songbirds singing. I got none of that TV stuff. But what I got in my heart was a transformation of who I was to be. And when I got back to base after that, I stopped drinking. I stopped hanging around with people that was doing all kind of things. My life had changed, and I couldn't explain it, but I knew I was different. And at that point, I really came face to face with every demon that was in my life prior to that. And I was a 19-year-old kid in a foreign country, from the city. And this is all I knew. So at that point, vulnerability became, I said, I'm going to help people that don't understand what they're going through. And that's really where the journey began. Over 30-some years ago now.
Wow, that is such a powerful story. I saw Fedora take lots of notes, and you can see the gears clicking above her head. But we do have some questions from the floor. So I'll go first to Muhammad Shukri Jamdus. And he says, Carl, I have a question. Fear comes from so many sources around it, and sometimes people say it's good to have fear once in a while. How do you change fear and negativity into something positive?
It's definitely good to have fear, and I will be the first to tell you that there's not things that I'm not fearful of. But the key to having fear is to let fear be a guide, not a hindrance. Because a lot of times we let fear stop us. I said before, and I talked to a client before, and I said, fear has given you a destination before you've even taken a step on the journey. Because fear has already told you can't accomplish that. You haven't even tried it, but you're scared. So fear is already giving you a destination, which isn't real. It's already giving you that. So in the essence of what I do with my fear is not negative. Fear, I want everybody to understand that. Fear is not negative. It's how we act to fear is what produces negativity. Because fear is insightful. Fear is educational. Fear is also self-awareness of things that you can and cannot do. Fear is healthy. It's healthy to be fearful of things because it's a danger if you're not. Right. And I don't care about the daredevils and all of those who say those things. There is definitely a fear in things that you don't understand. But what you have to do is allow that fear to direct you and not hinder you. And that is how I have overcome my fear. With the things I'm scared of, I've embraced, learn about them, understand why I'm afraid of it. Understand, is that fear real? Or is it something that I've made up? Is it something I've taken from someone else who've had a bad experience with what I'm doing and applied it to me? See, there's a lot of avenues that you need to discuss with yourself before you say, I'm scared of that. Because people say it in a heartbeat. I'm scared of that. Why are you scared of? I'm scared of dogs. Or why are you scared of dogs? Never had an encounter with one. Never had anything bad happen with one. But maybe your cousin got bit by a dog when y'all was kids. You've carried your cousin's fear, which has nothing to do with you. So that's why I say that fear is not just a negative. Fear is a positive, but it's how you do and interact with fear.
Well, thank you, Mohammed Shukri Jamlus, for that amazing question. I'd also like to note that just a couple of days from now, on the 10th of September, is World Suicide Prevention Day. So that amazing story by Carl hits home, and we should do whatever we can in our capacity to help anyone, because that's not the way to go. Everyone can get up from that and build themselves back up, just like Carl did. So I pass back to Fedora.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, I got goosebumps, Carl. I'm taking notes. Yes, thank you for
Yes.
that. Because from reading your post, right, Carl, and what you stand for, I must say it resonates with me, being a spiritual being that I am. As what you say and stand for are similar to the beliefs that I have. So where we believe in the higher being, yeah. So whereby we know that we had someone that not the one that has our back, regardless what happens.
Yes.
Right? So does it take to be spiritual to get it, or it doesn't matter? So that's my question.
I think it's to answer that shortly and quickly, yes. To answer that more in depthly, there has to be a relationship. There is no growth without a relationship. So if you say that you understand that there's a higher power, God, Jesus, whatever name that you give him, whatever it is, your God that you seek. If you don't have a relationship with him, there can be no intimacy. And without intimacy, there can be no divineness. There can be no covering. It's the sort of I temper it as a husband and a wife. I can tell my wife I love her all the time, but without action, without a relationship, without intimacy, without understanding, communication, that love means nothing to her because it's a spoken word. So when we think about can I be spiritual, I hear a lot of people say, I'm spiritual. What does that mean? Because I would like to understand the definition of it. Do you have a relationship with your creator? Because once a relationship is there, then the spirit can be mended. Then there can be a balance of a conversation or a healing or divinity or whatever it is that you seek from. But if I don't have a relationship with Fedora, how can I say I know Fedora? How can I say it? I can't say it. So if you don't have a relationship with God, you don't have a relationship with your higher power, you don't have a relationship with the one that created you, how can you say you're spiritual? And I don't discount what people say. I just put the disclaimer out there. I'm not saying that against anyone or anyone's belief. She asked me the question, I gave you the answer that I feel. If you don't have a relationship, and I can even put it down to the minuteness of us as individuals. If I don't have a relationship, if me and Asa, for instance, if we didn't have a relationship that we have through Growth Academy, if I cannot understand with the communication that he and I have together, understand his thoughts and his ways, how can I call myself a friend to him? How can I? Because I'm not a friend. I'm someone he knows or someone he knows of. But I call myself a friend because we have had conversations. We have a relationship. We have worked on things together. He understands me. I understand him. And no, I don't know all his idiosyncrasies. He doesn't know mine. But the basis is we built a relationship upon interaction. And if I'm going to be spiritual with God, I have to do something. I have to interact. I have to pray. That's my conversation with him. I have to seek his guidance. That's my understanding that I get from him. And that builds a relationship.
Perfect. Thank you.
Amazing answer to that great question, Fedora. Thank you, Carl, for that. Rahim, you have something for Carl?
Yes, yeah, that's huge again. Fantastic. All these facts about how in terms of spiritual, that's something important to have in order to be vulnerable, not to be vulnerable, and to use that against what you intend to leverage on that. I listened to your other program, right? In fact, 1 hour ago, you mentioned about how in order to be effective, right, to apply this vulnerability, actually you have to use you as example, or in my term, basically I say walk the talk. Yeah? So how do you relate this? How do you share with this audience here today that, how do you want to apply this to make it very effective when it comes to vulnerability?
There's a couple of there's a wonderful question, Raheem, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I've used me, because like I mentioned earlier, I talked about how Brene Brown has used subject matters and case studies. I've used my own self as a case study. I've used the traumas and the things in my life that has created a culture in me of understanding my vulnerability. My vulnerability is those things that I cover, those things that inspire, those things that cause me to have innovation, those things that I show individually, that I teach to people. The great thing about being a teacher, coach, consultant, or whatever you call yourself, is the ability to transform. That's what makes you a great teacher. If you had any teachers in your life through whatever level of schooling you've had, those that you remember are the ones that transform your thoughts, that transform your perspective of gathering information. This is what I do. Through my story, I transform how you feel about yourself. This is how I lead. And it can only have power through living it. And that's where the spirituality come in at. I can get on and I can say I got 1 million followers and I'm TikToking, dancing, whatever. I'm not saying anything is wrong with none of that. But I'm just saying I could do all that. I could have 10 million people follow me. And it could take one person to catch me not doing what I was dancing, talking, and all that about, to destroy all of that. But what I have on my side is what I talk to you about, I live about. So if you find me out in the yard with a barbecue and messing with the dog, or if you find me in a conference room and I'm leading a conference, the same Carl is there. So therein lies brings power to what I'm saying. And a lot of people don't realize that. The facade or whatever it is not this networking event that you build up. It's not these followers that you gather that's liking and celebrating every word you say. It's not even the content that you write and come up with. Because I've gotten content that I've shared with thousands of people in my network, and it's not copyrighted. So I've seen it again. But it is what they can't do that I can't do is live what I say. And that brings power to what I say. Because if you see someone that's living what they're talking about, there's a credibility that comes with that to say he knows what he's saying from experience. And that experience has provided him an education to give to others. And giving that education to others is what transforms people experience. It's not about a Disney ride where it's going to be, oh man, it's done. I waited 2 hours and what? The ride was 2 minutes. Then I'm done. Then I'm disappointed. But when you're living in the truth that you are, there's a life pleasure with that. I can be happy with myself in anything that I do because I know I'm giving it my all. I know I'm living what I'm saying. And I know that there's no skeletons that say, oh man, Carl, man, I saw him talking about vulnerability and he's on another network and he's talking about something else. I don't create distractions for myself because I live the life how it's supposed to be lived. And I can only do that being spiritual, because God is the only one that gives me the strength to stay true to who I am, because I can't do it by myself.
Wow, transformation. I like that word. And I think Fedora loved that word as well. All right, Azif.
Yeah, that's amazing. We can't do it by ourselves. I think that's one of the quotes we need to live by. So we've come to a part of this show, Carl, a little bit of fun. It's a quick rapid fire, this or that. So I'm going to give you 2 choices. You just tell me which is which, right? I know the answer to this. Patterned or plain?
I like pattern.
I know. I see your shirts and your bow ties, and they're awesome.
Yeah, I'm a pattern guy.
That's right. Sneakers or dress shoes?
I am definitely a dress shoe guy. Sorry. I do have a couple of pair of sneakers that I use for, my wife tells me that I'm not casual enough. So I do have some in my closet, but give me a nice loafer and some dress shoes and I am in heaven right there.
That's right. City or countryside?
I am a city boy, born and raised in Chicago. It doesn't get any more city than that, but I have come to appreciate, as I live in New Jersey now and I'm in the suburbs, and it's deer from time to time come walking through my backyard. So I am complacent now to be a country guy as well.
Nice. Night or morning?
Morning, absolutely. My dad once told me if you can sleep when you're dead. So I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of stake in sleeping. I sleep maybe I'm normally done with everything. I wind it down maybe about 10:30, 11. Takes me about an hour for the body to wind down. So I'm normally sleep by midnight and I'm up without an alarm clock, crack of day, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock every
Wow.
day. So I don't need a lot of sleep. And I'm gonna get killed because people say you need 8 hours, you need your rest. My body has just been conditioned to as such where if I get too many hours, it's not good for me. So 4 or 5, and I'm good.
Wow. And the last time you were on my show, you were recovering from COVID. So what's it like to be a COVID survivor? Has it
Uh,
impacted your health in any way in the long term?
it is not. Thank the Lord. Thank God that it has not been long standing. I was for about a month. I never went to the hospital or got hospitalized because I think when I got the COVID, it was like really like the numbers were extremely high, especially in my area, New York, New Jersey. We were really high at one point. I never got to that, but I did get all the symptoms: numbness of taste, and shortness of breath. And there was occasions, a couple of times, I was like, "Woo! I don't want my worst enemy to get this." But God brought me through, and I have no effects, no ill effects, and my health has been good. And I think that all stems from my relationship,
That's
talking
right. That's right.
talking to my creators. Yeah, I need to do more. There's more that you want me to do. I know. I go back to that day on the tank. That day on the tank changed my life, and from that point on, I've been changing others' lives, just being a part
Excellent.
of that.
Excellent. So that's the end of that segment. And we do have a question that relates to your last statement. This is she's from a friend of ours, Nurul Fathiyah. Her name doesn't appear here. But her question is,
Okay.
how do we help others? And this comes back to the title of the show, Carl, Staying Kind.
hmm
So, how do we be
hmm
kind and help others who have a lot of fear and limiting beliefs?
We have to be us as people. Like I said, I think I did my research on it. There's senders and receivers. And if we're not sending, we have to be the receiver. And in receiving, we have to be the ones that to be aware, conscious of. Because a lot of time people walk around like my mom used to say it all the time. Stop walking around with your head in the air, like you're not aware of things around you. And if we would just become aware and sensitive to things about us, not overly protective, not guard doggish, but just sensitive, being able to sense that, okay, this is not how they normally are. There's something wrong. How can I be a receiver to A, make the environment conducive, maybe want to talk about it, B, being a listening ear if they are talking about it, and C, being receptive to how I feel toward what they've just expressed to me. And this is how we help others who have fear and limiting beliefs, because the belief is just we have belief in each other. And when we do something wrong to each other, that pulls back our beliefs in each other. And it's all so much. People have so many things about we're different. We really aren't. Yeah, color wise, shapes, sizes, of course. But on the inside, we all the same. We want love, we want understanding, we want kindness. And I don't care who that is. Even the most hatred person, they want someone to be kind to them because they fostered the opposite. And when you look at that, those are the kind of things that make us help others. They give us the opportunity to help others. And in doing that, we'll get rid of their limiting beliefs because we'll start building up the belief in people. Because we need to believe in each other. I need to believe that if I talk to Asif about anything, whether it's just a listening ear or encouraging word, I need to believe that he'll have that. And that is what will take away fears. But we have not reached that. And there's much, 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 much more work to do.
Yep, and Shukri Jamlus is back, and he's asking exactly that because we know that in society there are people who take advantage of somebody else's vulnerability. Just like he was mentioning it, there were bullies in school, and there's bullies in the office. and these bullied people become victims, and we can't see the end of it. But he says, how should we support these people so that they can survive in the real world and survive and succeed in society if they're being bullied and taken advantage of?
It's well, first I'll say vulnerability is not a choice. So it's not like I can say, okay, I'm not going to be vulnerable today. There is something that I'm going to do, say, be, or engage with that's going to expose my vulnerability. There's going to be some action, some conversation, something that takes place that the receiver is going to be able to understand from me, the signaler, I'm not too in that area. Now, we do have that, and then that's why I go back to the definition of the word. Yes, it does mean those things, but it does not have to mean those things to you. As confident as I am now, I was bullied. As social as I am now, I was bullied. The first time I talked to my bully, I gave him lunch money every day for 6 months. Came home hungry all the time. And my mom was like, I gave you lunch. Why are you starving when you get home? I didn't tell my mom what was going on. I went to my counselor and told her, I said, I'm being bullied. And this person has found out that this is a weakness of mine and they're bullying it. And I've had this conversation. And she said, change their thinking of your weakness. And she said that to me as if I would understand, right? And I'm like, he's taking my lunch money. Those two don't equate to me. How can I change his thinking of my weakness, right? She said, get him to understand that what he's doing to you is only detrimental to him. So she gave me a platform of understanding that if I take what's weak in me, conversely turn it over to you, and they call it now psychology now, right? If I take that weakness in me, converse that over to you, and have you see an expression of what you're doing to me, therein lies my power. Now I can change your thinking, because bullies, they only perceive things to be. And you may not be physically, and they may be physically. So they perceive a weakness because they're bigger. See, but those all are material. The mind is the power. So therein lies the conversation, therein lies the dialect that you use, therein lies what you do as far as confrontational. Because most bullies, when you stand up to them, they will leave. Now, will there be some harm in that? Yeah, I've had a bully, like, he punched me in the back of the neck when I told him I wasn't going to give him any more of my lunch money. But what we came to understand is that I stood up for where I was, and I wasn't taking that no more. Now, the next time you come for my lunch money, if it takes for you to beat me up every day, we're going to fight every day. If it takes for you to just continue to do this and you think I'm going to stand by, that's not going to be the case. So when we stand tall in who we are, the other person will get it. The respect will be gained, and the bullying will stop. It's just the capacity of which you want to take it, how you want to take it, and the direction you want to take it. But you must be wise. There is opportunity for harm, and I'll use this as a disclaimer as well. There's opportunity for harm. There's opportunity for hurt. But there's a greater opportunity for respect, not only for you, but those that see you stood. And you'll be the victor in that. And so it so happened. And me and that guy, we're friends today. I still call him from time to time. We're friends today. You know what I mean? And he calls me to pray for him. Isn't that amazing? Someone who thought that I was someone he could beat up on and take from. He calls me from time to time to just have prayer with him because he's not doing the greatest. So God will make your enemy your footstool, and I agree with that. And your enemy not footstool to stand on, but he'll make them your footstool to understand that what they did to you was really not what they needed to do. I hope that gave you some insight.
That is amazing. That's amazing insights. Rahim Osman, because we do have this show on every single week on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Malaysian time, and we have scheduled some fantastic speakers to come on this show. We have a fantastic guest next week, so maybe we'll promote that a little bit. So Rahim, who do we have lined up for our show next week?
Next Wednesday will be Datin Sheila. She's the vice chairman of this association, the Malaysian chapter. They call it Olympic Malaysia, and they have this mission to actually send the PWD people to these games next year, somewhere in March or April. So right now, of course, they are preparing the candidates who are suitable to actually to be sent. And in fact, they are also in the midst of raising funds to finance the trip, which I'm also trying to assist in some way. So next week she will be coming, and I think she will talk more about to elaborate more on this program. It's quite interesting to hear directly from her what exactly this Olympic is all about, because I'm also pretty new. The first time I heard this term is actually from her itself. That was like 1 or 2 months ago. Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do come by again next week at the same time, same place. We have a show called Abe Olympics. I think Carl just dropped out. Maybe it's something to do with his connections, but never mind. So, ladies and gentlemen, we really are happy to have you with us. If you have any other questions for Carl, he's back online. And please do put them still in the chat. We'll be on, the show will still go on for the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So we can still take care of your queries and questions. But as I said, this show comes on every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Malaysia time, or in the East Coast of the USA, 9 a.m. for them. And we bring stories and people of kindness and positivity throughout the world. And we've had some fantastic guests over these past, I think it's been 10 weeks now. Fedora, can you believe that? We've had shows on for 10 weeks.
Wow, I'm done. 10 weeks already. Love it.
Then realize that time
10?
flies. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Time flies.
Look forward to it. I was just telling Azif every Wednesday night, evening. So get to, dress up a little bit, and but most important to engage with, oh God, inspiring beings, I must say.
That's right. And when we don't go out a lot nowadays, this is the opportunity we have, right, to engage. And I get to spend time with you, Rahim and Fedora, and people like Carl, who are amazing. And that, that nourishes us, that gives us more power and more energy. So I would recommend to all of you tuning in to reach out to your friends, to your family, anyone, have a Zoom call with people you've not checked in for a while. And like I said, in the next couple of days, on the 10th of September, is World Suicide Prevention Day. We may not be able to identify who's really in the doldrums, who's really in depression. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to really check in with our circle, at least. Ask your friends how they're doing, ask your family members, you okay ta? I come from Subcom, and that's one of our campaigns, is just to ask everyone we know, you okay ta? Because that simple 3 words could really change somebody's life. Yeah. So I think Carl had to go. So we thank him for being here. I think he was so inspirational, and his stories were so amazing. What did you get out of it the most, Rahim? What was one story that really stuck with you?
Talk about this, vulnerability, because I think that's the one that I mentioned earlier, that the old school, right? The old school always, we want to actually hide our weaknesses. So I think, especially when this social media coming all about, you don't have to be perfect. If you get professional to do the job and put that on social media, it doesn't work. So that's why I think our friend here, Azif, is doing so well, because he's so casual. He exposed everything, that means, which I don't think I can do to that degree. So these are the things that I learned from this program, and also from Carl, that sometimes you have to show, you have to actually give to people, and before you expect to get back from them.
That's a great insight. Before I go to you, Fedora, since he's saying I'm sharing everything, I'm sharing something right now. So if you're in the audience, you can scan this QR code and register for a session organized by the Asia Pacific University, APU. It's about personal branding. They invited me to speak about this, especially for students, how to ace your first job using LinkedIn. And I'll share with you some tricks and tips that I have learned over the year that I have been actively engaged in LinkedIn. And if you're interested, not just for students, anyone can register. So please do register here and join my session on Friday, 24th of September, 2021. So I hope to see you guys there. Carl is back on board. So just as we're wrapping up, thank you, Carl, for joining back. I understand you had some connection problems.
Yes, I don't know what happened. I was looking and listening to Raheem, and next thing you know, my screen went black. So I said, okay. So I tried to get back in, but I apologize to everybody that was watching. This is the times that we are in. Technology doesn't always work in our favor, but it is a great thing because here I am talking to wonderful friends across the world right now at this present time. So it's working and it's not working all for our favor, correct?
Everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, Carl. So that's exactly what was supposed to happen. So we were just wrapping up here. So Fedora was about to share her insights and her key highlights from our chat tonight.
Great.
Yeah. I have a few, if you don't mind. So I guess it's about taking the inventory you were just saying of yourselves, right? Of yourself, of myself, for example, and bring the new you in your next journey, wherever that next journey is. I think that's something that I tick box. And fear is already giving you a destination. That's what you said. I love that. And let fear direct you and not hinder you.
Wow.
So because I guess that the fear does hold back a lot of not just talking about vulnerability, talking about trust, talking about a lot of other elusive subjects. So I must say that is that aha moment that I have, and I kept on saying I myself am work in progress, and hence these are so valuable. Because it's a journey, it's a life's journey, and I appreciate that, Carl, for all the insights. And I hope to further connect with you, through LinkedIn and watching you from afar, but not that far. LinkedIn. Thank you, Carl, for the.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. So, what did you think, Carl? What did you take away from this conversation that we had tonight?
The greatness about the conversation we have, and it's just an extension of the life that I've lived. And it is such a pleasure to see not only God glorified, but how he's glorified through us. The conversation that we're having, the empathy and the connection that we're having. Those are the things that are more important to me. They're more important to me than grabbing someone from my coaching program, and more important to me than going to an organization and changing culture. These connections are valuable to me because they enhance my life, and in enhancing my life, I hope to enhance and transform other lives. And it's just an inspiration. I just want to be the one that just could touch one person. I write a post that I post frequently, and I wrote it about maybe 2 years ago, and I said that I just want to inspire people. I want someone to look at me and say, because of you, I didn't give up. That is the only reason that I'm here. The only reason. I don't have any agendas. I don't have any hidden messages. I don't have any subliminal things I'm trying to do with your mind. Only thing I want people to do is to live better lives, because I was on the brink of not being here. And nothing that has happened to me can change where I was. Only thing could do is get better. And I want to be an inspiration to let other people know you may be sitting somewhere thinking about jumping off a cliff. But if you just hold on, things will get better. Stuff will change. Just keep going, because oftentimes we give up short of the finish line. We get tired. The race is hard for us. We don't want to continue. But if you look, there's so much after the finish line that you receive if you can just stand and hold on. And that's what I like. That's what my message is to everybody. That's what I took out of just talking to you guys. Stand and hold on, regardless of the circumstances.
Thank you so much, Carl. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to thank Carl Shawn Watkins for coming on to our show, Stay Kind Tonight. That was just an amazing episode. You can rewatch it on my profile, and I'm sure my friends will repost it as well. You can also go to Redbeard Media at Redbeard Media International at YouTube. You can also catch me on Instagram at Azif Mustafa. So ladies and gentlemen, please do tune in for our future shows. We are on every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Malaysia time or 9 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States, as Carl, where he is located right now. And please hang in there. If you see somebody who requires help, please do extend a hand to him or her. And if you do need help, there's no shame in getting professional help or any help to get you through the day. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say goodnight to all of you wonderful people from all over the world. Thank you to our guest, Carl Shawn Watkins, my co-hosts, Rahim Osman and Fedora Zulkifli. Thank you, everyone. Please stay kind, stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Yeah.